This is the story of how one man shook Argentina and packed up a stadium for Jesus. In 1952, a relatively unknown American evangelist named Tommy Hicks was conducting meetings in Tallahassee, Florida, when God showed him a vision that would change his life forever. He saw a map of South America covered with a vast field of golden wheat ripe for harvesting. The wheat suddenly began to turn into human bodies, men and women with their hands raised high, crying out, "Come, Brother Hicks, come and help us." 2 years later, Tommy Hicks would step off a plane in Buenos Aires with barely enough money for his ticket, facing what seemed like impossible obstacles. Yet within weeks, he would witness one of the most powerful moves of God in modern history. During those meetings in Florida, God gave Tommy a specific prophecy, which he wrote in his Bible. "For 2 snows will not pass over the earth until thou shalt go to this land, for thou shalt not go by boat nor by land, but as a bird flying through the air." 3 months later, in Red Bluff, California, after a successful evangelistic crusade, a pastor's wife, while leading in prayer, repeated the identical words of that prophecy. Hicks had never told anyone about his vision or the prophecy. God was confirming his call. Christian leaders in Buenos Aires had been planning an evangelistic campaign and had invited the well-known healing evangelist T.L. Osborne. When Osborne was unable to fulfill his commitment, the invitation was extended to Tommy Hicks. As Tommy prepared to board his flight from Los Angeles to Argentina in 1954, he prayed with friends for a harvest of 50,000 souls. During the flight, the name Peron kept coming to his mind. He asked the airline stewardess if she knew of someone with that name. She laughed and informed him that Juan Peron was the President of Argentina. From that moment, Hicks knew he was being directed by God to meet with the president. When Tommy arrived in Argentina, he told the organizing committee 2 things had to happen before the work could begin. First, he had to have a meeting with President Juan Peron. Second, he had to have a stadium capable of holding at least 25,000 people. The committee thought his suggestions were preposterous and absurd. President Peron was intolerant and uncooperative with all religious leaders outside the state-endorsed Roman Catholic Church. How could an unknown preacher from the United States ever get an audience with Peron? Please subscribe to watch more of this. But Tommy Hicks believed in his God. The next day, Tommy, with an interpreter, walked up to the Casa Rosada, the pink house where the government offices were located. As they neared the door, an armed guard stopped them with a machine gun aimed at Tommy's chest and asked brusquely, "Who are you? What do you want?" Tommy carefully explained that he wanted to hold a salvation healing crusade. The more Tommy explained, the more interested the guard became. Finally, the guard asked, "Do you mean to say that God can heal?" Tommy answered, "Yes, he can and will." The guard then asked, "Well, can he heal me?" Tommy inquired about his problem, and the guard complained, "I have hepatitis, and my liver is killing me with pain right now." Tommy responded, "Give me your hand," and right there he prayed the prayer of faith. The power of God surged through that guard's body, and in a moment his pain and sickness were gone. The guard felt himself all over and said in total amazement, "Why? It is all gone. All the pain is gone." The guard responded, "You come back tomorrow, and I will get you in to see the president." The next day, the guard escorted them to President Peron's door. Tommy carefully explained the plans for the city-wide salvation healing crusade. He wanted full press and radio coverage and free rights to congregate in the stadiums and arenas of the nation. Peron then asked, "Do you believe that Jesus Christ heals today the same as he did while he was here on earth?" Tommy answered, "Of course I do. Here, give me your hand." President Peron was suffering from severe psoriasis or eczema, a skin disease that had grown steadily worse. No physician had been able to cure it, and it had become so noticeable that Peron no longer allowed photographs to be taken of himself. Tommy prayed the prayer of faith for President Peron, and the power of God flowed into him. He staggered back under the impact. Before the eyes of the onlookers, Peron's skin became smooth and soft as a baby's, and he was instantly made whole and complete. Amazed, he stepped back and exclaimed, "Caramba, Dios mío, estoy curado." Good heavens, my God, I am cured. At this meeting, President Peron signed the total freedom for the evangelical church in Argentina. Opening his arms wide, Peron gave Tommy a hug and promised him everything he desired: freedom of press, freedom of radio, and the freedom to hold a large public campaign. The Atlantic Stadium, with a seating capacity of 25,000 people, was rented. Please subscribe to watch more of this. The evangelistic services began in the Atlantic Stadium on April 14, 1954, with around 6,000 in attendance. But within days, as word of healings and the gospel message got around, the place overflowed. The gospel of Jesus Christ was preached every night, followed by mass prayer for healing. The blind received their sight, the deaf heard, the lame walked, and those suffering from various diseases were instantly made whole. Within weeks, the Atlantic Stadium's 45,000 seats were maxed out, without even standing room being left. Crowds gathered for blocks around the stadium in every direction. Loudspeakers were installed so those outside could hear the gospel message. Out of necessity, the services were moved to the Huracán Football Stadium with a seating capacity of 110,000 on May 22nd, which also began to overflow. In 2 months, 3 million were reported to have attended, with 300,000 decisions for Christ and a massive number of outstanding healings. At least 100,000 people signed decision cards, and an estimated 20,000 people joined evangelical churches. Tommy Hicks claimed among his converts the Vice President of Argentina, who along with his wife came to his hotel room, where they were both saved. The impact of the Argentina revival was staggering and lasting. Evangelical growth multiplied steadily thereafter, until the 1980s, when it experienced explosive growth under a new generation of homegrown evangelists. Bible sales soared. Healing ministries were started across the nation. Every evangelical denomination that was not liberal in their theology experienced tremendous growth. Attendance at Assemblies of God churches multiplied tenfold in 10 years. A year later, Tommy returned to Argentina where, for 10 days, he preached in the Atlanta Stadium. After the close of his second Argentina campaign, Hicks left for Europe with the purpose of preaching behind the Iron Curtain. Through a series of miracles, God opened the door so that Tommy Hicks was able to preach the gospel not only in the satellite countries, but in Russia itself. Thus, for the first time in many years, the full gospel message was preached within the Soviet Union, openly, and by an evangelist from the democratic nations. Tommy Hicks was in a car accident in 1958 and had a heart attack the same year. After leading various revival services, mostly in North America, he left ministry in 1966. He died on January 6, 1973, but the whereabouts of his grave is unknown. The story of Tommy Hicks teaches us that God delights in doing the impossible through ordinary people who dare to believe him for extraordinary things. A relatively unknown evangelist with barely enough money for a plane ticket became the catalyst for one of the greatest revivals in South American history. The vision God gave him in Florida became reality in Buenos Aires. The miraculous healing of a security guard opened the door to the president, and the healing of the president opened the door to a nation. Tommy Hicks demonstrated that one act of obedience, one step of faith, one supernatural encounter can unlock revival that transforms millions of lives and changes the spiritual landscape of an entire continent for generations to come. Please subscribe and share for more of this.